It's episode 20 of Whole Lotta Wolves, season 6. I'm Paul LePage, joined by Danny.
Good evening.
And we always enjoy having a returning guest, especially this time of year, as we recently discovered. So welcome back, Glenn Nenninger from Michigan Wolves. How are you doing, Glenn?
Glad to be here. Thanks for having me, guys. I wish each time I came on, it was better circumstances, but I seem to be on whenever we're sitting last in the table. So
It might not have the most positive of turnarounds this time that it did the last one, but
right.
Yeah, we'll see. So we will dig into last Saturday's game, the loss against Brentford, but seems it was very much a case of Groundhog Day. We thought the more pressing news would be to talk about Jeff Shee departing, Nathan Shee arriving. So background here that it was broken on Friday late in the UK time that Shee was transitioning internally in the Fosun group, not having any Wolves involvement anymore, would be heading up more of a formal role with the Fosun Sports Group. In his place comes Nathan Shee, still from within the organisation, having a moving roles, doesn't appear any prior footballing knowledge, but featuring predominantly on some of their more high-profile brands. What was interesting to me, and maybe hopefully a sign of things to come, that he has the title of interim. What is it? Interim chair, I think, isn't it? Executive chairman. So, Danny, with that in mind, are they just shuffling the pack, or could it be a genuine move to bring someone in the future who's got that genuine football background that many are looking for?
I don't think it's the latter. I mean, certainly nothing that anybody could, dig up since the announcement has shown that he has any particular football knowledge, which I guess suppose isn't a huge surprise. Fosun just tapping someone else who's running something else to come in and fill in on an interim basis. Now, of course, my immediate thought was, I don't know how much I believe this is interim. It feels a lot like, one of those appointments that you say is interim, and then it's like, oh, well, it's kind of going all right, and so we just keep him there. Because the alternative, which I think is what a lot of fans want, I just don't see as very likely. The idea that he comes in as an interim and then they hire someone with, real football experience, especially within the UK. It just doesn't feel very Fosun. Obviously, a lot of this stuff is speculation at this point. No idea, how this is going or, what the overall aim is, except to take the heat off of Jeff Shee and Fosun sort of by extension a little bit. And for that, you have to give them at least a little bit of credit in the sense that they are reacting to fan sentiment, which is, I think, one of the aims of the protest was, to force some kind of action, some kind of statement, and they've started to do that. But obviously, it's the very, very, very first step on what could be a very, very long road.
So, Glenn, what was fairly surprising was the swiftness of this change, in so much as it was even Jeff Shee's program notes on Saturday. So obviously there'd been a quicker turnaround there than beating print deadlines. Based on what Nathan Shee said today in his first real public address to the fans via video statement, what do you feel was the real thrust of what he was trying to get across today? Was it a case of just trying to do the best that he could, or is it a case of damned if he did, damned if he didn't?
Yeah, I mean, first credit to the club or Fosun for making the swift change, and the protests work, and you guys touched on that last week, and how the fans stood up for themselves in the club and they made a switch. And I agree with Danny. The interim and your original question about the interim title, that could be handcuff as well. If you do ultimately replace him with somebody else, well, what is he going to do in this lame duck period? It's not the new guys that he's going to bring in, and particularly at this time of year with a critical January transfer window, which will tell us everything that we need to know. Are they really going to try and compete to stay up, or are they just going to uh, uh, realize their fate and not do anything and go down? I think he said the right things today. You've got to give them a little bit of a chance. But what I really would have liked to hear is, in addition to it being unacceptable and not meeting expectations, and we're fully ready to invest a large sum of money in areas that we need it, like the striker, midfielder. Some 9 goals from 17 is not going to be competitive in the championship. And so I think great that they did make a switch, because Jeff was so oblivious to things, as far as him saying in his interview they had a good window. And so we have to give him some time. If he ultimately drops the interim and that becomes his post, let's go. But I think the more we wait and not make a final decision, I think that's maybe harmful.
Okay, so she out, Nathan she in. We will see what the next few weeks hold as far as the changes in the front office. So we will go ahead and touch on it if we must. Wolves 0, Brentford 2 on Saturday. We'll go through it as best as we can. First thing to mention was change in the goalkeeping department again. Appears that Sam Johnson has made too many errors, bringing Jose Sarr back in as starter. Danny, what did you really think of that as a move from Edwards and overall impact on the defense and team?
You might be surprised to hear that I wasn't super pleased with it. I'm not Johnstone's biggest fan. I think he's been serviceable. I think the advantages that he holds over Saw have been apparent throughout the time that he spent in the starting 11, his better distribution, etc. But I've been the first to criticize him, especially coming out for balls, like on corner kicks, especially. Just doesn't really ever seem to judge it correctly. And if he does, the best he can ever do is to punch it away. But that being said, I just saw the reality of the back line being shaken up already. Obviously, with Agbadou out at AFCON and Mosquera being suspended, and just a situation where you're now suddenly changing virtually all of defense. And plus, we've been switching out the right wing back as well. So I would have kept Johnstone, if only just to keep a level of consistency. And even though I thought that Johnstone's mistakes were fairly embarrassing against Arsenal, I don't know, like, it's just a part of a pattern of a poor defense, and I'm not willing to shake up the entire thing just for that. So I would have kept Sam Johnstone in, but it's the whole season. It's been 6 of one, half a dozen of the other.
Desperately looking for some creativity, Glenn, and it was for Lopez who got the start that many have been excited about, but really didn't do himself many favors. What did you make of first performance?
Yeah, I think that the theme of the year is that there's just no attacking threat. When we're in the final third, there isn't service into Larson. Larson isn't doing himself any favors by creating the space and wanting the ball. Lopez, he's got to shuffle the deck. Nothing's working, and so he's in a very tough spot. we see Chaney come in with a little more pace, but not doing much with the ball either. So they had more possession. We had some big chances, certainly. I mean, the catching practice that Larson offered on his penalty was not one that I mean, obviously he wants it back, and Doc talks about everyone being nervous and afraid to win, and you can see that just it encapsulates the whole season when you've got a guy up there with you got to put some pace on the ball and just smash it into the back of the net. You got nothing to lose, and so yeah, that's disappointing, but I don't know where the solve is on that.
I was going through recaps today and highlights, lowlights, trying to look for anything of substance. There was pretty much zero from us in the first half, but it did mean it was another game that we were going in their level. But it did seem someone like one-way traffic and start the second half. If it wasn't for a couple of good Jose Sarr saves, we could have been 2-0 down quickly after the restart. And this was from a team that got frequent mentions during the broadcast of being pretty dreadful away from home. So we're certainly making Brentford, I think, look a lot better than they actually were. And probably that was summarised with their first goal, Danny. Just a shocking set of errors again, really exposed Krejci with letting it bounce and just put Lewis Potter in to score. We're just shooting ourselves in the foot again.
Absolutely. I mean, I think it's been said on this podcast and on almost every other Wolves-based podcast that this season we're just so disconnected and so sloppy in so many different ways that we just almost every game seem to concede a goal that no other team concedes, that you've never seen a team concede. So preposterous. And yeah, I mean, as in every other time we've talked about this, there are plenty of blame to go around in the buildup. But in the end, Krejci, who's I think, impressed people early on that he was one of the few that we brought in this season that may have been up to the standard if the window had gone better overall. And yet, in this case, I think Santi does not an amazing job. I'm not going to sit here and praise him to the hilt either, but, does a serviceable job of moving Thiago out of the way so he can't get on the end of that ball. And then Krejci just completely misjudges the flight of it after that, once it's going to miss them, and lets it bounce, which is the thing that you're not supposed to do. So, it's like we're probably going to get onto this in a couple different ways, but it's like I still have those words of Matt Doherty ringing around in my head and just the complete lack of confidence that's running through this squad. And, are some of the players not good enough? Absolutely. Are some of them probably not as good as we think that they are? Maybe in the case of Krejci, that's also very possible. But also I think these are mistakes that players even close to this level don't make. So.
And effectively we're architects of our downfall again, and it was Lewis Potter with a double not long after, which effectively sealed it. Moving on, you did mention it a little earlier, Glenn. Strand Larsen's penalty miss, 88th minute, at a point where that could have been one final push to try and get at least a point out the game. Mm-hmm. Is it time for him to come out the side now as a starter?
I don't know who you replace him with. I don't know why. He does have to receive some service, which he isn't getting. Last year you have Cunha taking that second defender, or people watching him and being afraid of him, which freed him up, which allowed him, to score more than 10 goals in the season, and everything was you see Newcastle wanting him because he's so good. So what are we missing? And why are we, we sign him, so he signs the permanent contract, and then we just haven't gotten him going. And so I don't think you take him out. I wouldn't take him out. I wouldn't know who to put in for him. To me, that would sound like we're giving up. And, we just have to find a way to get him the ball. And back to the other point on Lewis Potter, we have we have conceded more goals to people you have never heard of, or at least shouldn't be scoring goals, than anyone in the Premier League. Is that not the case? I mean, they either score their first goal, or we make them look like some world-class player.
What's the record for most goals conceded by first, like, people who it was their first senior goal for their career?
Right. I mean, Thiago scores 2. Okay, fine. We give up a brace to their best player. No problem. I mean, not great, but okay, I can live with that. I mean, Lewis Potter twice. I mean, you gotta close him down. He can't score.
And Danny, to wrap this up, it was quite important of you already mentioned it along the lines of Matt Doherty's post-match comments, somewhat echoed a little today in Rob Edwards' press conference as well, or certainly came across as in support of certainly parts of what Doherty was getting across. So a lot seems to be down to character and really that ability to turn it around that has just vanished if we do go a goal down. So do you think Doc is really highlighting those players that are going to be on the move regardless of what league we're playing in? Is that where do you think he's picking the real full?
Yeah, I actually avoided watching that Doc interview right after it was still too new, and then obviously I was in the throes of getting myself out to Ohio, which is where I am now, obviously.
Lucky Ohio.
Yeah, I know, lucky Ohio. More on that later. So I actually listened to it. I watched it today and was really struck because I've obviously seen all the reactions to it. And people on various sides, thinking that, like, good for Doc calling people out who aren't, pulling their weight, or I don't really like this kind of like loser mentality, all different directions of it. And I was really struck by how just disappointed Doc seemed. And I think that fits in a lot of ways with, like, Doherty's been here for a long, long time, with a brief hiatus away, and he's played with Wolves in League One. He's seen the best of times in many ways, and also some pretty poor times as well. And I think something that really spoke to me is just, I mean, first of all, I have to give him props for even coming out. It takes a tremendous amount of courage to speak that honestly with a camera in your face, regardless of the situation. And I think that the sort of disappointment led me to think about I almost feel bad bringing it up again, but just the unstructured, poor quality of the transfer window, which we're still very much in the statute of limitations. I'm still going to say, Jeff Shee, it's all your fault. There are a lot of things at play, but at the same time, like, this kind of mess of a transfer window where you end up with someone like Doherty, who I think is a perfectly good player and like a stand-up guy, especially for Wolves, having to be the voice that he is right now, and seemingly fairly unwillingly, he stood up and was counted and did it. But, like, this is not a natural person to have be your spokesperson. We kind of went through a similar thing with Max Kilman, and I defended different leadership styles, and I very much appreciate Doc's leadership in this moment. But it's just like, you look around the squad, and it is just completely bereft of any kind of direction and leadership. And what I fear is that Rob Edwards has been thrown into the deep end here, with not just a Premier League squad, which he did, reasonably well with Luton given the expectations, but a situation which is so far beyond his control with a group of players, some of whom were not in any way prepared to be part of a relegation fight. They were sold a certain vision of what the club was going to be like, whether through Jeff Shee or George Mendes or whoever else. And they were not ready for not just like a relegation fight. I mean, maybe they, whatever they were told, they said, well, this team finished 16th last season, we could get relegated. Even if they were realistic about it, I don't think any of them could have contemplated a team as historically bad as this has been in terms of performances. I think we've been a bit unlucky in terms of, the points we picked up, but still the 2 points from 17 games is like, that is not a thing that's probably going to be repeated very soon, if ever. It's very possible that we get a number of other unwanted records, and I don't think any of these players were prepared for it. And some of them are having to prepare for life in the championship, and some of them are very quickly trying to prepare for life somewhere else, either in January in the summer. And it's incredibly frustrating that there isn't even a core group of players you could say who know for certain, I'm going to be here in the championship, so I want to keep fighting right now. I don't even know what that group is. You can say like, oh, here's the players who we won't be able to get rid of, or the players who aren't good enough to go elsewhere. But I don't think that there's any guarantees with this squad that any of them are around. I've seen comments, even in the comments tonight about like, Fer Lopez or Rodrigo Gomez. What were they told coming in as kids who were, playing for Spain and Portugal under 21 and knocking on the door of the senior team? Do they really, think that they're going to want to come down to the championship? I mean, I think it's like not the end of the world for their career, but like they could have people whispering in their ear. They could have George Mendes whispering in their ear that there are better things out there. So like, I don't know. It's incredibly frustrating from a squad building perspective that there doesn't even feel like there is a core to this squad. The extent to which there's a core is like there's a handful of stand-up guys who seem to care enough about the club to actually fight every week. And that list is like João Gomez, Matt Doherty, maybe Bellegarde. He's kind of a quiet guy. It's hard to read him, but like he seems to try. It's like there's not a ton of them, to be honest. And maybe some of the new guys are too, but like we've seen Tolu for 10 minutes a game. It's like we haven't even had the time to feel that way about him. So incredibly disheartening. Lots of respect for Doherty for saying anything at all, whether I fully agree with everything he said or not. But hopefully in January, there is like a serious clear out, not necessarily in terms of personnel, although that needs to happen too, but a clear out just of, mentality. There has to be a complete reset because like the expectations for this second half of the season can't be more false promises. We can't be bringing in people saying, oh, we're going to escape this thing. Realistically, we're not escaping this thing. You're coming in to play football and play it as well as you can.
Danny, that's the second huge challenge for us. It's not necessarily just, is Fosun willing to make the investment? It's who in the hell is dumb enough to want to come into the situation that we present. Right. Okay. So you have a young guy that's not in the Premier League and wants to play in the Premier League. Okay, fine. But for too long, for 3 seasons, we've regressed and we've gotten away with it because for the last 2 seasons, the 3 promoted clubs have been historically awful on a points per year. You had Luton, Sheffield, Burnley, right? And then you got away with that. And then last year you had Leicester, Ipswich, and Southampton. So they were up right back down. And we come 16th, maybe 17th, maybe 15th you could. But you've got this model of getting the players, getting them to be big-time players, and then selling them. The Neto, Jota, Nunez, Kilman, Collins, it goes on, and you're trying to pick off these Rodrigo Gomez's, who could be a nice player. He's a nice player, but is he a Premier League player today? And that's the challenge that we're up against because Brighton's figured it out. Not a big market. Brentford, right? There was talk of them going down this year. They're nowhere near the relegation battle, and as Danny said, we're in a relegation battle every year, and it keeps getting worse, and we keep using the same formula that has put us in this position. So those are the two main challenges. You know, having the money to invest, which we should based upon the sales, and then instead of spending £100 million on these areas and these players that we're really risking, how do we recruit somebody who wants to come here and play and be a part of it?
So that was Saturday. We'll move on next and we'll preview our next trip. And maybe we can be a little more positive with this because this team has been pretty shit like us this season as well. It's just a trip to Anfield, Liverpool champions on Saturday, 10 a.m. Eastern time kickoff. Do you think, Glenn, it's more of the same, or is it an actual relief to get away from Molineux and play without that pressure?
So, as a supporter, I want to find the positivity because I don't want to go down. I can't find Wolves games on the championship in the States. It's going to be hard. I want to stay up. I want to be competitive. That being said, we have looked bad in some games, but there have been other games where we have gotten a little bit unlucky. If you look at Arsenal, we parked the bus. We put everybody in the back. We frustrated Arsenal all day. And at the end, we scored the 3 goals. It was terribly unlucky with the 2 own goals, particularly the second one. And we found a way to get one in. And you're 1-1 at Arsenal at 90 minutes, just like Tottenham giving up the goal, just like Brighton giving up the goal, just like Burnley giving up the goal. We have to find a way to get over the line. And so unlike Manchester United, where we play open and we're going to match them and they just have better players and they punish you. And so they score for fun in the second half. If we can do what we did at Arsenal and frustrate Liverpool and then somehow hit them on a counter, I think that's the way we have to play.
Danny, are you giving Mane a start on Saturday? Anfield, big team away from home. Let him just go and play. Pressure's off.
I think I want to see Mane play more. If there's anything I definitely trust Rob Edwards with, it's probably dealing with our youth. I guess this is such a fence sitter answer. I don't know. Like if he thinks that he's ready for it, I think Mane should get as many minutes as we can give him this season without hampering his development. I think he can develop in a lot of ways from getting minutes, and we can also put way too much pressure on him. Personnel depending, whoever's fit, I'd probably still leave him on the bench, but giving him increasingly more time so that then when we get to February, potentially, in the quote unquote easier games, all games that we probably expect to lose at this moment, he might be a starting option at that point. Starting at Anfield is a pretty big ask, so I'm not going to say yes just yet.
Okay, prediction times. It was as we were from last week because all of us predicted either a point or 3 versus Brentford. Yeah, we all know should have known better. So, Glenn, we give the honour to the guest. How do you predict the score Liverpool versus Wolves on Saturday.
I don't see where we get the goal I think we're going to get, but I'd probably say Liverpool 2, Wolves 1, very similar to a person.
Danny?
Yeah, like you said earlier, Liverpool are shit. They've barely been performing this season. They were bottom half for most of the season. I don't know, man. I don't know. I think back to that Arsenal game and feel like we were so solid for so long, but also it felt like we were just on a tightrope. If we had conceded during any point during that, then the floodgates would have opened. So I don't know how sustainable that is. I don't know. It still isn't Christmas yet. I'm just gonna go with hope and say Wolves 2, Liverpool 0.
I like it. I really do, because there's that part of me that just thinks it would be typical Wolves when we go and get a result at Anfield in a season where it means absolutely nothing. Where
Yeah,
if we'd picked up 3 points there at previous seasons, you'd have had even a win, you'd have had progression in the cup and things like that. So
yeah. Although I don't know why I'm predicting this, because I do have to break the news that whatever good mojo the media room here in Ohio has, it will not be able to work its magic on Anfield, because we're leaving on that day. So I will be listening from the car, and no one will be watching in the media room. I could get my partner's dad to just put it on in there and just leave it on and see what happens.
okay, that's dictated my prediction.
Oh, good, yeah.
I'm going for a repeat of the Emirates score with probably similar heartbreak, just because it's Liverpool. So that's Liverpool 2, Wolverhampton Wanderers 1. So beyond Saturday, we go into the busy festive period. What have we got coming up? We will be heading to Old Trafford for Manchester United away. That will be on Tuesday, December the 30th, a 3:15 Eastern Time kickoff. And the first game of the new year in 2026, that is home to West Ham. That's Saturday, January the 3rd, 10 a.m. Eastern Time kickoff. Nothing major happening, nothing good coming out of either of those, is it, guys? Can you see any positives from this festive period, Glenn?
Well, I'd like to pick off United. I think that they have shown inconsistency as well. I think that we could, if we get a good result at Liverpool, and a good result at Liverpool is heartbreak 2-1 losing, right? But we go down there, they absolutely will not be taking it seriously. They will be looking ahead, and they have issues of their own. So I think that we could maybe steal one there, maybe get a result at least. So I like that game the best.
Danny, anything to cling to over the holidays?
Yeah, I'm clinging to the fact that I have Cunha in my FPL. He's going to score against us. Yeah, I don't see. I don't know. I'm looking all the way ahead to West Ham, and I don't see how we would possibly get away with something there, especially with Nuno there. I mean, maybe we're better off now that Jeff Shee is gone. I was thinking about this last week, that like, if Jeff Shee was still in situation and we're playing against Nuno might do double training for the week ahead just to prove a point. But yeah, I mean, like Glenn said, I think the West Ham one has got to be your best chance. They've been extremely dysfunctional, and so have Brentford. So don't get your hopes up, obviously. But in terms of a team that can very easily have an off night and let a very bad team beat them, it's certainly possible.
All right, good.
We can't go the whole season without them, right?
Where's the Mick McCarthy can clip on that one?
Yeah, we can put that in editorial for sure. Okay, no stupid question time. Next is when you, the listener, can get in contact, ask us anything about the wonderful club that is Wolverhampton Wanderers. It can be done via email, hello@wholelotofwolves.com. It can be done via a form on our website, or you can reach us on X at WLWpod or via our Facebook. If you're watching in the live stream right now on YouTube, ask them in there. If we get a chance to, we can go to those in the order that they came in. First up on X, Supergran asks, if Wolves were a TV series, which one would they be and why? Glenn, do you want to shoot that one?
Yeah, the first thing I saw when Nathan came on for his speech was, I thought it was Squid Game. Okay, I mean, I'm looking at him and I thought he was the recruiter trying to get all of us to believe that this is going to be greater and we're going to do everything great. And then all of a sudden we get there and we all get killed because it's some dumb game and we got tricked into believing it was going to be something better than it was. So I think that that's pretty good. Similar, I don't want it to be, but boy, I tell you, it's rough right now, right?
Danny, have you got one from the TV world?
It's Broadchurch, and they finally caught the murderer, but he got away, and his name is Jeff Shee.
Mine is definitely The Walking Dead, just because his attacking output is
great answer.
Those zombies and our defenders look a little dead at times as well this season. So I think that's quite apt. Chris Fisher next on X. He says that now Jeff is gone, and he highlights gone. Who's the Grinch that stole the season? He puts forward Agbadu, Strand Larson, or the Chicago Bears, as the Bears and the Wolves can't be good in the same season. Who's the Grinch that stole this season, Glenn?
I tell you, well, coming from Detroit, I do not want to see the Bears do any good. So I don't know what the hell happened, because earlier in the year we beat them 52-14, and now all they've done is win. So and we're the ones that are looking up at them. So we get them on the last game of the year, and hopefully it'll mean something. But we've got work to do. So yeah, I mean, I would vote that as the Grinch for sure. They've stolen our Christmas for sure here in Detroit.
You going with anything, Danny?
Yeah. I'll twist it slightly to be who's going to be the Grinch in the coming year. And I think it's going to be George Mendez. There's that whole montage where the Grinch is taking away people's toys. And I think George Mendez is going to swoop in and rescue as many of his clients as he can from the indignity of playing in the championship.
That is a very, very good call. Drew Freakin on X. Drew mentions speculation around departures ahead of the transfer window and asks who's going to command the biggest fee. Is it Andre, Zhao, or Strand Larson? What do you think, Glenn?
I would have to go with Andre at this point. It has switched because I think that, like at the beginning, people were interested in Larson. And I think that nobody really would want to touch him right now. And if they did, he's going to be at a discount. Andre's serviceable. He could slot in somewhere else, and would probably, now they're not going to set any transfer records. I don't know what we're talking about here, but I mean, maybe 20 million pounds versus 15, but maybe they get 30, something like that. But I would think Andre's probably rated a little bit higher.
Danny?
Yeah, I'm going to go against Glenn on this one. I mean, it's a boring answer, but I think just the sake of the, transfer market for strikers is always a bit higher. I think that Zhao might push that depending on if there's a market for what he does particularly. I really thought that someone would be coming in for Andre, in the summer potentially, but certainly, even if we'd been having a decent season, or maybe even more so if we had a decent season, this coming year. But I just look around at the other likely teams, and I don't see the need for what he brings. I mean, a really good shout would have been Man United, but Casemiro is keeping him out of the Brazil squad right now. So it's hard to really see that being for significant money. I recognize that it's tricky to get someone to pay what we probably want for Strand Larson, but if it's going to be a player who's so broken, I think they'll take something. And I think that like there's going to be a certain amount of thinking on the other end of a transfer that, well, he's playing in a poor team that's not giving him service, but if we bring him in and can give him service, then we saw last season he scored whatever it was 14 goals, and we can get him back to that. And if he can get us 10 goals optimistically between now and the end of our season, that's worth whatever the thing is that we're paying for him. So I think it's JSL, but I think I do agree with Glenn's overall point that they're not going to be far off from each other.
Yeah, I think they'll be there or thereabouts, and you will pay that premium for the striker. But I think that's the only little element of luck in this bad season, that someone's going to take a gamble because they want those goals. If they're looking over the shoulder, the threat of relegation, or if they're looking upwards, or they've got the demands of European football even to bulk that squad out, when you have got a capable 14 goal proven Premier League striker available. I think that's the only look that we're going to get in the January window is that we're able to get a decent move for him. I don't think it'll be anywhere near Newcastle money from the summer. They'll try it, and it just depends how desperate that buying team is. But I think it's JSL. They're all pretty similar, but there'll be a swing of 5 to 10 million more for him based on those goals. So those were no stupid questions, everyone. Thank you for sending those in every week. Again, you can do that. hello@wholelotofwolves.com, at WLW Pod on X, Facebook, and also our website. Glenn, we're going to be heading into the last few minutes now, nearing the full-time whistle. Tell the audience how they can reach you and the good folk of Michigan Wolves.
Sure, yeah. Instagram is MishWolvesUSA, and X is @MishWolvesUSA. So pretty easy. And then Facebook is groups Michigan Wolves USA. So pretty easy. We have a huge Boxing Day party, so we're going to be getting together on Saturday and helping Danny's score prediction come true at 2-0, because Santa will have come and we all have asked for goals. And so we're going to use some of those goals on Saturday. And so we should have a pretty good crew to watch that here. Looking forward to it.
I'm just looking at the tweet. It's at your place, right?
Yeah. Yeah. So everyone's coming over here. We've got everything set up, and it should be pretty fun.
Dang, maybe I should swing by if I'm driving.
You're only in Ohio, right?
We're in Northwest Ohio too. We're in Findlay, so not that far away.
You're like 60 minutes.
That's right. It's not really in the right direction to get back to Baltimore.
It isn't, but it's only one time. I mean, this is pretty good. You can come right up.
I will talk about it.
So yeah, everyone's coming over at 9:30. So we did it last year. We're going to probably make it an annual Boxing Day event. So looking forward to it.
That's really good. And I think, doesn't that just show the spirit of Wolverhampton Wanderers supporters, worldwide, the lengths that they're willing to go to, you being so generous, opening the doors to your house, even though we're absolute dog shit right now. It kind of...
To be fair, that's true.
Thanks to that type of support. So well done, you, Glenn. Well done, the folk of Michigan Wolves, regardless of how the season's going. So that leads me to say thanks to Danny manning the socials, Alex producing our audience, because this show is for you. it would be doing us a huge favor, helping to grow the whole lot of Wolves pack, if you can give us a 5-star review on your podcast listening platform of choice, along with subscribing to our channel on YouTube, liking our content there, commenting as well. We're going to be taking a break for the holidays, but look forward to being back with you early on in the new year. So from all of us, happy holidays and up the mighty Wolves.